This is Hannibal from the Hannibal TV.com with my daily combat sports news update. Raw averaged a 0.57 rating last night and was once again below 2 million viewers, coming off the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, where both Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black were allegedly thrown off of the roof of Titan Towers, despite the, as I pointed out, the crash mat being right in the helicopter shot of the roof. Either way, they were back on TV wrestling on Raw last night. So I guess you can get thrown off of a building and wrestle the next night if you're in WWE. According to a few reports, Sting, who is now 61, is likely no longer under WWE contract. They could re-sign him. There's rumblings that AEW might be interested in him, but at 61 years old, I don't know how many of us want to see him back in the ring. I did do a review of the Undertaker's documentary that WWE put out. It's on this channel. I watched it last night, and seeing all the injections that he has to go through and all the physical therapy just that he had to go through to wrestle his match against Roman Reigns in 2017 makes me not want to watch The Undertaker wrestle again, because knowing he's so broken down and in such pain, I know he makes $2.5 million a year downside, but I mean, I feel bad for him. And also, after seeing how much pain he is and how beat up he is, it just turns me off of wanting to see him wrestle again. Otis won the Money in the Bank men's ladder match, by the way, and I don't have any problem with that. I mean, I believe he was a Greco-Roman wrestler in the past. Don't have anything personal against him, but he did do a interview with Sports Illustrated today where he said, I found out, and was like, what? And then he also said, those guys that were in the match were all pro. It was so much fun working with them. I loved Daniel Bryan kicking me right in the chest. Once we all got together, the ideas were flowing. It's like, this is why I don't want to watch wrestling anymore, because you guys are openly talking about you're all friends, ideas were flowing as you're putting the match together. I just don't want to see this. I don't want to see the mystery and the magic being shoved in my face. It just sucks. UFC's pay-per-view over the weekend, UFC 249, did 700,000 buys, by the way, so very good buy rate. The UFC prelims did a 0.48 rating, so the Raw rating did beat the UFC rating, not by much, but that was only for the prelims. It wasn't for the main fights. Stipe Miocic responded to Daniel Cormier, who said that basically Cormier alluded that if Stipe Miocic doesn't want to fight him, he'll fight Francis Ngannou for the UFC title because Dana White's going to strip him of it. Of course, Cormier really wants to fight Miocic because Cormier lost to Miocic in their last fight, and whatever Cormier's next fight is supposed to be his last. So Miocic responded that he's already said he's going to fight DC. He says that DC just likes to make noise, and Miocic's team is working on securing a training location and dates with UFC. Now, Miocic also has a fireman job. He's kept his job as a fireman, and I know he's been having problems finding a training solution during this lockdown. He also had a detached retina or something coming out of his last fight, so he's had to recover from that. In other MMA news, Conor McGregor's manager said that he does plan on boxing again, but he's going to fight MMA first. There's some rumors that he's probably going to fight on Fight Island, this island that the UFC is putting together to allow international fighters to fight in the UFC, since I guess there's problems getting them across the US border, and fighters are going to be able to train and have training camps on this island, which we still haven't heard the location. We have supposedly heard that the cage is supposed to be right on the beach on this island. Dana White also said in a video interview that Khabib is likely going to fight Justin, probably on Fight Island, since Khabib is an international fighter. He's in Russia right now. There's issues getting them into the U.S. And finally, in my last piece of news, Luke Sandow, who is a bodybuilder, he placed third at the Arnold Classic last year. I did interview him last year, and a bunch of people pointed out to me that he passed away. He killed himself. He did have 2 kids. You hear about lots of people killing themselves during this lockdown. So let's hope that they start opening things up faster, because the economical effect of this has been terrible. And there's about a 99% recovery rate to this COVID-19. So I think these closures are a little extreme. Like here in Canada, for instance, cancer doctors aren't working. And like I have a cancer spot on me from skin cancer. They're not dealing with it. I've heard of people that have had chemotherapy treatments postponed. My friend has heart issues. He was supposed to have an ultrasound on his heart. That's been postponed for months. I've had people who need cataract surgeries tell me their cataract surgeries have been canceled. So it's like they've put these COVID-19 people above everyone else, above all other medical problems. So I don't agree with that. I do, of course, have sympathy for the people that have suffered through that. Thank God Billy Graham's daughter recovered from it. That's about the closest person that I know that has it. I know there's only about 60,000 people in all of Canada that have it right now. And the medical system is taking care of them. And I do realize that people with a lot of other health issues and older people are a lot more at risk than people like me of catching this. But I am a little concerned and frustrated that my cancer spot is not being taken care of. To be perfectly honest, that's concerning for me. I wish the doctors would take it more seriously. Sean says, hey, bro, hope all is well. Am I going to post all the Buff Bagwell interview? Yes, the Buff Bagwell interview is posted in its entirety, and the baby doll interview that I conducted today is already posted in its entirety, ad-free at patreon.com/thehannibal.tv for my wonderful Patreon subscribers that help support me. Pedro Pichardo says he's lucky Goldberg didn't kill him for the Undertaker. Yes, I mean, that was an interesting match, Undertaker and Goldberg, but as we saw in that documentary, Undertaker is far from his prime years, and I'm a big Undertaker fan, but as I said, I really think wrestling is unfortunately dying. All the content is pretty much geared to the smart marks now. They've really spit in the face of the old school fans, and they don't care about getting new mainstream fans. They just want to focus on the vocal minority of fans they already have, and they're still turning off more and more people on a consistent basis. But that's not my problem. I'm doing great. My own channel is growing, and I'm happy about that, very happy. And I hope to continue expanding into more MMA interviews, boxing interviews, UFO-related content, other domains, because as you guys know, I'm not the biggest wrestling fan anymore. WCW Fan 2000 says Raw was getting ratings in the 8s back in the 90s. Now they're getting 0.5s. What does that tell you? It tells you that people are not interested in wrestling anymore. Flying the Bug 35 says Mark needs to retire for good. He was and always will be the greatest big man in the ring. But like many before him, he doesn't know when it's the final bell. I hate to say it as a fan of his, but that's true. And as I said, that documentary exposes him. Like, I don't know how many people are going to say, oh, I can't wait to see him wrestle again. When you see a guy getting injections just to perform in a choreographed match, like, it doesn't make me want to see him wrestle again. It makes me want him to just do a retirement. And he was supposed to retire in 2017, but unfortunately, nobody that they have on their roster can replace him, so they need to keep bringing him back, unfortunately. David Jones says WWE wrestling is shit. Dell Jr. says Bailey looks good with short, dark hair. Don't mind that. I'll have to check that out. Mark Dark Shadow, Holyfield versus Tyson 3. I don't know if I want to see that, but it'd be interesting to see. I think Tyson might have a better shot at beating Holyfield now. David Jones says the old days of wrestling were a lot better. They were, and they would pack arenas in those days on a regular basis. Multiple arenas all over the world were packed for wrestling. And it's going to be tough to do that again. There's going to have to be like a brand new company come out that's really old school, and I just don't see that happening. So it's better for me to just, as I said before, keep pursuing other interests. But people watch my news, so that's why I do the news. And the news is still interesting to me behind the scenes. Is Band Arios has interviewed Dan Severn. There's 2 extended career interviews with Dan Severn on this channel. Look them up. There was supposed to be a 3rd one this year in Phoenix. He was going to tour me around to locations that are important to him and have meaning to him in Arizona. However, the lockdown fucked over plans for that. But we hope to reschedule it. But definitely, I think my first interview with Dan Severn is my highest viewed MMA interview for an MMA fighter. But the second one was actually more entertaining. I think he was more entertaining in the second one. Underdog says it's interesting to have fights on a private island. I don't know if it's actually going to be a private island or not. They haven't disclosed that, but I've heard reports that it's not really a private island. Like there's other people on the island, according to some reports. Like it is an island with civilization on it. That's what some reports are saying. It's not necessarily an island that they're taking over from scratch, but we'll see. They're keeping it pretty quiet. What do I think about Tyson fighting again? He's only going to be fighting exhibitions. From what I understand, people are trying to hype it into something more, but why not? Because of Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, there's been an interest in boxing, kind of a resurgence in heavyweight boxing. Tyson can still go better than a lot of people. Could he pass a drug test with all the weed he smokes? It's doubtful. But somehow, when I read his book, he smoked weed all of his life, and somehow he managed to pass drug tests back then. So maybe he could still pass drug tests. I don't know, but I know for an exhibition fight, there likely would not be any drug testing. Perdado Funk says Raw is weak. Interview one-man gang. Yeah, I would be willing to do that. Dale Jr. says the natives come to the ring with spears and shit. Haha. D-Lip 2600 says Fight Island sounds interesting. Interview Tatanka. No, didn't like him. Didn't like him. He's a massive asshole in my opinion. Mike S. Eddie Graham and Bill Watts had some of the best wrestling promotions. Long gone. Yes, they sure did. And Eddie Graham would be turning over in his grave if he knew what was going on with wrestling now. Bill Watts, I would love to interview. He's near the top of my list